Welcome back to part 2 of our video series of how to set up the Zeiss Victory RF range-finding binoculars. Part 1, we took a look at the most basic functions and getting that part set up first. So now we are going to take a look and a deep dive into how to set up the ballistic profiles and a lot of the display functions in these range-finding binoculars. There's a ton of options in here, a lot of ways you can customize what you see and how the rangefinder functions. So we're going to dive into all that in detail in this video. As always, we really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Put links to that down in the description, as well as a link to our website, backwardspursuit.com. A lot of gear reviews over there to go check out, and a link to the Victory RF if you want to check them out for yourself. Let's dive into how to set these guys up and get the most out of them. So to get started setting up the Zeiss Victory RF range-finding binoculars, there's a couple ways you can do this. One being through the unit itself, and that does work. Go ahead and hold down the setting button like we did to go through the different modes in the other video. Hold that down for 3 seconds and then you can cycle through the different options, select what you want with the fire button, and you'll be able to move through the menu that way. That does certainly work, but it is more cumbersome than utilizing the Zeiss app. I'd recommend doing that. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is download the Zeiss app. If you haven't done so, I'd recommend doing that, and then we'll be able to go ahead and get through this a lot easier and make any changes and adjustments to this unit doing that. So download the Zeiss app, and once you've done that, you are going to be able to see this when you open up the Zeiss Zeiss app. You have to create an account. I've already done that, so I won't go through that, but pretty simple. Just create your own Zeiss account. Then we're going to go ahead and click on the 3 dots in the upper left-hand corner and go to Connected Products. So you're going to see a couple options here that you can connect to this unit. So you want to go over to the Victory RF, which is this unit here. Now to get the unit prepared to pair with the app, you're going to hold down the settings button for approximately 8 seconds. So holding that down for 8 seconds, then what you're going to see is in the unit here in the display, you're going to see the Bluetooth signal come on, and you know it's ready to pair with the app. So once that is done, then you're going to hit the connect button here, and it's going to want to connect to the app. Now keep in mind you do have to have the location on. It likes to have that on, and then once you turn those on, it pairs really quick and easy. And now at this point it is paired with the unit, so we're able to make changes on the app, and then we'll show you how to sync that to the unit here in a bit. But before we do anything else, we want to make sure that the units of measurement on the app are the same as the units of measurement that we're going to be using throughout our setup here in the RF. So we're going to go back, hit that top back button there, and then hit the 3 drop down buttons there, and on the bottom there you're going to see settings. Here it's going to come from the factory as metric, so if you want to change that to imperial, this is where you're going to do that. I'm going to change it to imperial because I'm here in the States and prefer that. And so now we have imperial. Now this is critical because if we have this set up differently, if we set imperial here and then set up metric within the unit, which we'll look at here a little bit later, then it's going to create a conflict in the unit of measurement that it spits out. It can cause an incorrect reading for you and cause you some problems there. So I want to set that to the units that you're going to be using for the rest of this setup. So I'm going to set this into imperial. Then we're going to go back to our connected products here, select the Victory RF, and we're ready to move on to the next step. So as you can see here on we're dealing with the Victory RF unit. In the number 1, the device settings here, you've got a couple of things you can work on. You've got ballistics here, and these are the standard ballistic profiles that come with this unit. And then you also have the result, the display. So you can change what you see with the unit by making a change here. We'll go through that in just a second. And then you've got different settings here. If you want to change the default here, like in the other video we mentioned, if you're in the US here and you want to change to imperial, you're going to go ahead and change this from meters to yards and inches. That's going to be one of the primary things you want to do initially if you have a preference one way or the other. Target mode here in this is going to be best target or last target. We talked about that last time. Pretty easy to change. I like to leave it on best target. The button orientation we talked about in the last one, you can change this as well through the app. You can have the factory settings, which is right-handed, or if you want to do the reverse settings, that's going to be a left-handed setup. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that on the factory settings. Now there's a number of different ballistic profiles here that are available in this, and there's 9 of them that you can have in here, and we'll go through later how to set up your own ballistic profile for your specific rifle, but that's where you'll set that up. And then here is, again, a display option for what you want displayed in the unit. We'll go through that in a minute. And so back up to the main menu, and then here, usage data, that's going to give you a number of recent ranges that you've used and ranged, so you can go through some of your historical data there. So kind of cool that way. So that'll load in there. So let's start with the results display. This is something that is really personal preference for what you're going to be using this for. And so you can have there are 7 default configurations that you can choose from in this unit. Default 1 or display 1, and this is where, for me, it's a lot easier to use this the app than through the unit itself, because in the unit it just says DI1 or DI2, so you have to remember what that is, and it's a lot easier because it describes that in the app here. So this is one of the reasons why I like this better. So if you want just the range to display, you will select display 1. Display 2 is your range and your angle, so if you want the angle in a percentage. The display 3, which is used a lot for archery hunters, is you're going to have the line of sight range, and then the equivalent horizontal distance, so you have your angle adjusted range there. That's super useful. Now when you get into displays 4 through 7, those are typically your rifle settings. So if you're going to be inputting a certain ballistic data in here, this is where you're going to see, say, display 5 is going to be your line of sight range, and then your horizontal or holdover MOA for display 5. So it's going to tell you in MOAs your holdover for your ballistic data, whatever you synced with this. You can do that in mils, of course, or display 7 you can have your range and then your click correction. So if you have 17 clicks, whether you're in MOA or mil, you'll set that up separately. That's going to go ahead and allow you to select that. So, and then you can also display 4, go in centimeters or inches as far as your holdover. So a lot of options there. One of the cool things about this is that you can add your own configuration by clicking Add Configuration. Now the range there is your range in meters there as it's displayed. This is just a sample of what it would be. So you can add, let's say you want to add your equivalent horizontal distance if you're archery hunting or something like that, and it'll add that in. And then if you can also add in, let's say I wanted to have my holdover in MOA, it'll tell me that as well. So 10.1 is my holdover. This is just a sample. There's no particular ballistic profile attached to this yet, but that's how that would work. So if you like that, you like your setup, you hit Add, and you can go ahead and display that DIU1. That's your custom configuration for how you like it. So once you're done there, you can go back from your results display, and you've set up everything that you may want in your results display for the rangefinder. So that's an awesome configurations you can make to that. So next in these settings tab here, you can adjust the brightness, number 1 here, to whatever brightness you like. I like brightness 7, so that's what I had set it to. But each of these brightnesses, keep in mind, are adaptive or an adaptive display, so they will change a little bit with the outside light. So you're not going to be stuck with just a brightness of 7. That's the baseline brightness, and then adjust up or down based on the outside lighting. So you can go all the way to 11 or whatnot, but I'm going to keep mine at 7. I like it right at 7. This has worked really well for me, so stay there. Units here, yards and inches or meters and centimeters. I'm going to go with yards and inches. Best target, I'm going to go with, that's the one I've found to work to my liking the best, but you can also use last target there and select that. Your button orientation, factory or reverse. Here's another shortcut to that Ballistics profile page, so you can click that here and it'll take you to the Ballistic page. And then here's the results again, what we just went through, so another shortcut to that through the settings section. Now we're going to go back to the Ballistics, and this is where we can go ahead and add a specific gun profile or a load profile or whatnot. This basically, when you hit Add Profile here, it just adds or pulls in profiles that you've already created through another screen, and I'll show you where you can create those now. So if you back out of that, back out of the Ballistics, and back out one more time into the primary menu here, hit the drop down there, and you'll click on Ballistics right there. And then you'll see any of the ballistics the ballistic profiles that you have created. Created a few loads for the 708, one for the 7 mag, and then one for the 243, and still have some more I'm working on. Now if you wanted to add a new group, which you probably would want to when you're getting this first setup, you're going to go ahead and hit this yellow plus sign. But before I do that, I want to mention one other quick thing. go back to this screen and hit the main menu button, go click on My Products, and you're going to you can go ahead and add a new scope for whatever rifle you're going to be building the ballistics out for. So in this, if you want to add a new rifle here, you can add a new scope here, and you can choose from a number of brands here, and it's nice that they've got other options, not just the Zeiss scopes, and so you can go select that and then add that as a new product. So once you do that though, you're going to go back to our my ballistics setting there, and we're going to go in here and add a new ballistic group. So once we add this here, let's say I want to build out a new load for my 708. And go ahead and do that, and you can name it whatever you want. And here under your rifle scopes where we just were, you're going to go ahead and select whatever you want to put on that. So for this one I have the Zeiss Conquest V4, but if I didn't, I'd select that, and then I'd go choose from one of the scopes that I added in that other screen. Let's say I wanted to put the Tractoric, put that guy on there, then that would be the scope on there. But in this case, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the Zeiss Victory, I'm sorry, Conquest V4, that guy right there. So that'll be my Zeiss scope for this project. And then sight height, you want to go ahead and measure that. Put that at 175. That's, I know on this particular gun, that's the sight height. I measured it from the center of the bore to the center of the optic. So that is where that one is at. And then select which reticle your scope has. If it's a Zeiss reticle, then it's pretty easy to find that out. Now under the ammunition tab, you can either enter a factory load if you're going to be shooting factory loads, and you would just choose your brand, whatever you're going to add in there, and then find your load data. So put in brand, and then the caliber, and then the bullet. Now if you're hand loading, which is what I do, I'm going to go ahead and select, let's say, something else that I'm going to be building here. Let's recreate that ELDX load that I created. So in this, the 284 is the caliber, and the bullet that I put on here is the 150 grain ELDX, and so that's going to be what I created there, or what the load that I developed. So it adds that there. Muzzle velocity on this load is at 2,800 feet per second. I've already tested that out and know that. And then the ballistic coefficient there, you can either manually change that, it does pull it in there, but the BC on this is, I believe, 0.57 if I remember correctly. But if you want to calculate that, then you can do that manually as well. So that will pull that information in there, and then you hit continue. This is where it's going to pull in the temperature if you're connected to Bluetooth, to the satellites like you should be. And when you're setting this up, then it's going to take into account the outside temperature when it's throwing the ballistics table to you. Now you can change this manually, but if you do that, it's going to override that, and so it may not pull in the outside temperatures later on. So I would recommend not changing that unless you are intentionally wanting to do that. So go ahead and leave that the way that is. Hit Save Profile. All right, now once you're at this screen, you can see that you have some options here of what you can change here. Now it defaults to the maximum magnification as far as for the subtensions in the reticle. So 24x, you can see what your different the yardages are for the different subtensions. And then if you move that back to 6x, you're going to have different subtensions, different yardages there. That only applies to a second focal plane scope. Of course, if you have a first focal plane or something else loaded in here, that option may not be there. You also have a table here. You can see a number of different factors there. You can set that up for a maximum range of 2,000 or 1,000 yards or whatever. You can set up in inches or MOA or mil, have whatever you want displayed here, or all of them if you want. And then that kind of gives you a lot of options there, and then what increments in yardages here. If you want to change that to 50 yards or 100 yards or whatnot, you can do so. So a lot of options that way in what you set up. So really a lot of great features here. And once we've got that set up for that ballistic profile, we're going to go back to our connected products, select the Victory RF, and under our ballistics table here, and we're going to add a profile now that we're going to sync the one that we just created. So the one we just created is right there on the top, 708. Now to make sure that that custom profile that we just created is what is displayed in the Victory RF unit when we do this sync process, we have to make sure that that blue star is by the profile that we want. It's currently by BA1, and you can certainly select any of those profiles, 1 through 6. We just created a BAU1, which is the custom profile. So to make sure that that is the one that is displayed in the unit when we do the sync, we want to push that blue star, click that blue star by 708. That means that's going to be the default display in the unit here once this sync happens. It's a critical step to make sure that the ballistic profile that we are intending to display in the unit is transferring from here to the unit by clicking that blue star. That makes sure that's the default display in the unit. So once that's done, click the back button here, take us back to the main menu. So now that we have a bunch of settings set up the way that we want this to work, down here on the main page, under the Victory RF, you're going to see the option to sync. So we're going to see, you can either sync the app, what we just put in here, to the product itself, or if you change things on the unit, you can sync that to the app. So make sure your rangefinder is still on, which it still is because we've been working on it. I want to sync the app to the product, so I'm just going to click that. It's going to confirm that you want to do that. It'll overwrite the settings that are currently in the unit. Going to go ahead and sync that, and it happens very quickly and cleanly. So now you're ready to go, ready to use that. Now if you want to come back in here and change any one of these settings, it's very easy to do. Just go through any of those. You can play around with it, but certainly would recommend going and setting up your, connect the products that you want if you have a certain scope onto this section right here, or go and set up your ballistic profiles under the ballistic section there and put anything you want in there that you might be wanting to sync to this unit that you might need out in the field. So that is the Zeiss Victory RF, how to set that up using the app. That's by far the easiest way, I think, rather than going through the unit itself, but you can do either way. There's a ton you can customize to your own liking, so it makes this really useful, and you can set it up however you like it, and a lot of functions and a lot of features you can go through. Please drop any questions or comments down in the comments section. We'd love to help you out if we can. Again, I'll put a link to this down in the description for you so you can check it out for yourself. Thanks for watching here today, and we will see you next time.